I'd like to know, what's you guys' favorite show? Real Talk! Talk to you about is, who do you plan on voting for in this political election? Coming to you live and direct. Welcome back to Real Talk, Just Listen, and we are here. We are still getting into it. Right now, we're going to continue to talk to our guests, and the next question I'd like to ask is, what are some of the changes that you all would like to see in our next presidential candidate, and the next person that's going to be president? And you know, I just really want you to be real, but can you elaborate? Why don't we start with you, Mr. Dawson?
Well, I think one of the first changes I'd like to see is, as a nation, how we conduct diplomacy. Mm-hmm. The idea in the world today that you don't engage in conversation with your enemies, I think, is absolutely ridiculous. I think it's arrogant, I think it's dated, and it's one of the reasons that our country has developed so many enemies. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to sit down and talk at the table with your enemies and talk about the differences, and I think it requires a different kind of diplomacy. So one of the things that I'm looking forward to in the next administration is a different kind of diplomacy that really focuses on engagement and dialogue and discussion. Mm-hmm. You know, we know that we're still the most powerful nation on the earth, and if we have to resort to warfare, that just as we did in Iraq, you know, yes, you can win a battle. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that you can win a war. And today I think the tactics have to be dramatically different than they've been in the past. And our country has been unwilling to do that up to this point.
Good point, good point. And you?
In my opinion, you do not negotiate with terrorists or sponsors of state terrorism. You just don't negotiate with them. You are never going to convince somebody like Ahmadinejad, who's the president of Iran, that we can get along. He doesn't want to get along with us. He wants to destroy us. You know, it's just like trying to negotiate with somebody that cuts off other people's heads because of a difference of religion or political opinion. You can't negotiate with people like that. Now, certain other states you can negotiate, and we have been negotiating. I would kind of disagree that in negotiating with North Korea, but we've been doing it. So that's old news. And in terms of our standing around the world, we have very strong allies in Europe. President Sarkozy in France is a conservative. Chancellor Angela Merkel in Germany is a very strong ally of the United States, and as well as Great Britain and Australia. John Howard was not re-elected. It's a parliamentary system that.
Now, if we can get a little bit more specific, I mean, the specific changes that we'd like to see here, and let's take it to this in America.
I believe the best thing that America can do is to stop all the government spending and take government off the backs of people. Cut taxes, as we have seen, that once taxes are lower, productivity increases and the tax base gets higher. People are making money. People that didn't have jobs, or created their own jobs, they start paying taxes. And the higher the taxes are, the more likely it is that people will hide their income and not pay their fair share.
Wow. And what are you coming on that?
Me personally, I just think it's pretty interesting that people say, you know, we should cut taxes. I think, you know, it depends on what kind of taxes we're talking about. And when it comes down to it, everybody should pay taxes for roads if we're saying those taxes are going to go to those roads. Big business, when they pay the more amount of taxes as they did in the 90s, our government or our country has actually prospered. And what people have to understand about economics is, you know, when the little people or the employees actually have money to spend, then that's how the economy grows. But when, you know, you cut taxes just for the rich and they get to keep all the money, they don't necessarily spend, you know, their money to make their business get bigger. And the point about Ahmadinejad, I'm sorry to bring that up, but he just came and spoke at one of our New York universities. And, you know, our government, we talked to China and we talked to North Korea, and North Korea already has nukes. So, I mean, the issue of diplomacy is really important. I agree with him. And I think when it comes down to it, we just have to have a better dialogue and communication among all people in the United States, so we can really deal with the issues
exactly
that are affecting us.
Exactly, and I agree, but why don't we find out what the independent thinks?
Well, as far as taxation is concerned, I believe that everybody should pay their fair share of taxes. I think one of the problems we've had with our tax system is that it's inequitable. There are people who make tons of money who pay very little taxes, and the system is really, on the shoulders of all the little people. I just got my, what do they call it, the tax rebate, the money that we just got back.
That oil money?
I got $32.52 back. And this is supposed to stimulate the economy, right? My $32.57 is going to stimulate the economy. I think that's a big joke.
Yeah.
I think, unfortunately, because most people in our country are ill-informed, that there's a tendency for items to be passed by our government that look good or sound good, but really have very little substance. It's just like in education, No Child Left Behind. Now, who would not support an act that's called No Child Left Behind? When you look at in practice and what has been accomplished in education under No Child Left Behind, it does not work. Does not work at all.
Yeah, a lot of government spending, I think. I'd like to come back to you because I'm feeling there's something you just like to.
Well,
comment on that?
just to address Ahmadinejad, I don't have any problem negotiating with our enemies. What I have a problem with is negotiating with state sponsors of terror, that attack our that support Hezbollah, a terrorist organization, and support slips my mind what it is now, but it's the other one. It's Hezbollah.
Hamas?
Hamas
was elected or democratically elected by the Palestinian people.
I
mean, when it comes down to it, if the people feel like their government is not doing the right thing, they're going to go to another brand of, somebody that's going to actually voice their representation.
I hate to pull out the Hitler card, but Hitler was democratically elected.
Right, and the United States supported Hitler also.
There are countries in the world that consider the United States a terrorist state.
Yeah.
So it's all about, identification. The fact is, we did unprovoked go into Iraq, and occupy that country. There are many countries in the world that consider us to be a terrorist state.
And I believe that they would be incorrect in that. And so we were.
I agree on the. For my own personal reasons, I'm moving over to the right with this one because I do believe in the protection of Israel, and I think that these terrorist regimes, I think that they need to be dealt with before we have another Hitler situation on our hands. I mean, and it's looking that way in Iran right now.
But I think we have to make sure that we don't become the Hitler and trying to police the world. And I think that's it.
I agree with that. It's not the United States' job to police the world. We have a job to protect our own interests as the United States. We are not the world police, and I 100% agree with that. But I think that in terms of Iraq, is that this was something that was voted for back in 1994 by the United Nations, and we were enforcing the United Nations surrender that Iraq had, and they were violating it. And some people say that that's an excuse, and there's some truth to that. That may have been an excuse, but what has happened is that it has prevented a terrorist attack in this country since 9/11.
What has prevented it?
Basically, attracting all the terrorists over into Iraq rather than into the United States.
That's a heck of a strategy. That you go and invade a country and occupy that country in order to attract terrorists to that area that had not been an area that harbored terrorists prior to that. And you think that that's made us safer by attracting all the terrorists into Iraq?
Well, the question is, have we been attacked, and have terrorists been going to Iraq? And the answer on one is no, we have not been attacked, and terrorists have been flocking to Iraq.
So if I can get you guys to just hold that thought, because it's getting hot in here. I mean, like I said, this is real talk. Just listen, we are going to get real with politics. We're going to come back. But before we come back, please check out these messages. Thank you.
That's a good point.